Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Justin Wendt from Rohini. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but before we do, we're going to tell you a little bit about those focused people. Oh, yeah, the originals. EnergyFocus.com, Greg Ehrich, EnergyFocus.com, the original.
You know, you rattle off a lot of stats, and I saw the stats, so don't contest where I saw it and all that and get into it. But people spend 87% of their time indoors.
Get
All
out of
right,
here.
so that's what I saw. So what do you need to do? What does that mean if you're indoors all the time? You got to have the right lighting, and
Oof.
Focus does that for you. It can customize your color temp, your light levels, and it's network safe, meaning no cybersecurity risk, and no new wires to run. You reuse your existing fixtures, fluorescent fixtures, put in LED tubes that can do it all, and Focus.
You know what? Most importantly of all that, Greg, and I can't talk about this enough. Tuning is to 2021 what dimming was to 1969, folks. Okay? So you put a dimmer, end focus has a switch right here on the wall, this studio right here. And one half of it is a dimmer for the lights, and the other half of it is a tuner for the lights. It is super intuitive, end focus. You just change the color of the lights to the light color you like. And then you set the light level. That's right. It's so easy. Tuning is dimming for 2021. We all need it. We all want it. Go to energyfocus.com. That's EnergyFocus.com. The original, again, with End Focus. What a product. Of course, members, Greg, of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org. That's right. Get associated. Get in here right now if you're a lighting distributor. What are you waiting for? All the great educational products. But for right now, Justin Wendt on Get a Grip on Lighting. What's up, Justin?
Not much. How are you doing?
You like that ad?
Yeah, that was fantastic. Apparently, I'm going to have to go get a tuner.
Hey, you know what? I mean, people get all lost in like circadian rhythm and human-centric lighting and tuning. And tuning and human-centric lighting are actually opposites of one another. Human-centric lighting is prescriptive. You do what the lighting system tells you to do. Tuning is about choice. It's about doing whatever you want to do. So those two things, tuning is a part of human-centric lighting, but tuning is independent all on its own as well. So go to energyfocus.com. Love those guys. So what's happening today, Greg Ehrich? You got some questions for Justin or what? Did we lose Greg?
That is very still.
Hang on. I think we lost him. All right. Well, let's just keep rolling here. So you lead the research and development team at Rohini. What does that role entail?
Yeah, so I'm the CTO at Rohini, and so I pretty much lead all of the engineering at Rohini. So it's not just the R&D; it's pretty much everything Rohini is as far as what we develop and what we build. So we actually have kind of a multinational team. So our team, Rohini itself, is primarily a company that is all about technology. So we don't build a product right now. We actually develop technology. And so we transfer that technology to our joint venture partners. And so we have several different joint venture partners in the United States and in Asia. And we also have customer partners that we work with. And so here at Rohini, which is actually in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, we have a small team of innovators where we're constantly researching new and creative ways to use light and ways to distribute that light. So we actually started out as a company that was trying to build a really cool product, and we're trying to use these mini and micro LEDs to build this really neat product. And as we were doing it, we figured out it's like, all right, this is really hard to build. We're having trouble building this thing, and if we do get it built, no one's ever going to want to buy it because it's going to be so expensive. And so we kind of shifted gears into placing these mini and micro LEDs really, really precisely. And so we kind of turned into this technology company when we were trying to be a product company. And because there was just a hole there. And so as we did that, we created these new partners and stuff like that. And we hired on and developed this team of people that just thought of problems in a different way. And so as we did, we we created this group, and we're just kind of like a SWAT team that goes out and just solves problems. And we have our manufacturing partners and our development partners kind of around the world that we work with to kind of bring these products to life. But our team here is just solving problems that, in a lot of cases, it's placing these tiny LEDs, because micro LEDs and mini LEDs, they're these just tiny LEDs, a fraction of a millimeter most of the case. So like the smallest ones in places are like 30 microns. So just
Wow.
really, really small. So
A micron is a millionth of a millimeter?
correct. So so where the ones we're placing are like probably the largest one we work with is 0.3 millimeters. So those are the huge ones for us. So those are the big guys. They're in the mini LED range, and so those are the ones that we're like, oh yeah, we can place that on anything. So pretty much any kind of substrates, like PCBs, FR4s, everything else, because those are the big guys. And the little ones, when you get down to those little tiny ones, you have to be pretty selective about what you're putting them on. But so when we figured out ways of placing those, and that was kind of how our company moved out into the industry, and that's what our team, it mostly specializes in. So we do a lot of other things, but that's our primary focus. So
people talk about stakeholders, joint ventures, this kind of thing. Who are your customers? Who do you sell to?
So our customers, our joint ventures, so we actually have a few different areas of our business. So Rohini as a business, we have our joint ventures where we're partners in those businesses. So our joint ventures, so that's where Rohini and another company, we set up our own a separate company. So one of them is Magna Rohini Automotive. So that's we have automotive customers. So Magna is, I call it one of the second largest automotive companies that no one's ever heard of, because they're this massive company, but you don't see them branded as their own car because they make all the other cars that you know of, but they're just a little bit behind the scenes. So they're a $40 billion company that they create these. In certain cases, they make the whole car, but in other cases, they make pieces of the car. And pretty much most of those cars that you work with, you'll see their products on those cars. So we partnered with them to create an automotive lighting company, and so pretty much anything in mobility and automotive. So they're creating products called FlexForm and stuff like that, where they can put these into taillights and into signaling and automotive type, any of those applications, particularly on areas where you're trying to mold into areas that light before has been either difficult, or we want to be more energy efficient, or we just want to be dynamic in a way we haven't been before. Because the big thing, if you look at cars today, is like the welcome, right? If you unlock your car, it doesn't just, the lights just don't go poof and turn on. They like, they call it the embrace. The light glows or does things, and so that's a big thing in like the newer cars. And so everybody's looking to find the next way of doing that. And then creating with electric vehicles, there's not as many, there's not that loud noise when you're coming up. So how do you signal consumers? So that's one area. So our Rohini works with Magna to service those customers, those automotive customers. And then one of our other areas is our other joint venture is Lumi. Lumi is they're kind of the membrane switch company. So they're one of the key players in membrane switches. So like if you're using a keyboard and it's got like the tactile switches, so not the clicky, really loud ones, but like pretty much most of the OEM keyboards have kind of the quiet keys, the membrane switches behind them. There's a good chance that Lumi probably had something to do with that. They're one of the bigger makers on that one. And so we work with them on doing keyboard backlighting, logos, and that sort of things. And so they're actually in production, they have products in the market right now that they're lighting up the RGB keyboards and RGB displays, like on logos on the back of computers and products like that. And so, again, we're a partner in that business. And then, so we help them with the technology, and they go and manufacture that. And then one of our other ones that we're really excited about is BOE. BOE Pixie, excuse me, is a joint venture again. This is a partner with Rohini. So, and that's for displays. And this is large size. One of the big buzzwords out in the industry, right now is HDR and XDR displays. These high dynamic range displays with the mini LED backlighting, or even the direct emission type displays, where we're putting these backlights and putting all these LEDs in the back of that. And our technology is really great at putting these things together. And we have one of the first kind of at scale products that's out there building these kind of things in the industry today. And so, because our technology is out there in different pieces of equipment and stuff out there building displays today through our joint ventures and our customers.
So that's a long answer. So you're in the automotive business, you're in the electronics business. Okay. So I get that. It's interesting that what you talked about with the welcome in the vehicle, that's kind of that's what tuning is. We talked about tuning in the introduction.
Yeah.
But in a way, setting lighting up to cue a certain feeling or a certain setting is actually the dawning of a new era in lighting. So using lighting to tell people certain things. So you're in your car's welcoming you. That's a form of cueing, which is a function of tuning and dimming lighting, which is why I made the comparison between the dimmer, the 1969 when it was invented, and the tuning in 2021. Those two things together are really what tuning is going to take lighting to a whole other level in terms of telling people what to do when they're in something. And so you guys are manufacturing these super small LED lights that can go in anywhere. It seems like the applications for that are only starting to evolve in people's minds in a way. What other types of customers are you guys looking at down the road that are not customers? Who are the non-customers that should be customers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. One we struggle with all the time, because actually the Rohini, one of our mottos that is one of my favorite ones, is like we've described it as putting light where it's never been before. And so in looking at that, we're always going out, because that's one of the things that our lights are, when we put it there, it's really hard to grasp until you pick it up and feel it, because they're so small and so thin. You pick it up, it's like picking up a piece of paper, and some of them are even thinner than that. Like you can literally put it on the surface of anything. The controllers and the things are the big bulky stuff. We're trying to move out of the way and move off to the side. And so the possibilities are endless, and it's really, we're trying to get this out into the hands of people, because the designers and stuff, the creative people that play with these lights are the ones that we want to do. Because if you start looking at the industrial designers and the designers of some of these products, because all the products you're looking at, particularly consumer electronics, it's always smaller, thinner, lighter. And we focus today on those applications that everybody knows, because it's easy to get into those. But now, as we look at some of the applications that don't currently have those lights, where it's, again, never been before, or the areas where it's more indicative, that's kind of where, our bread and butter, where we want to be. But it's harder to break into those, because you have to kind of show people how to do it. And that's the fun stuff. But that's the engineering side, and it's, you always have to balance that business and engineering aspects of it. It's like, all right, we got to make money today, and I can build a backlight today and get it into a product tomorrow. But this other one, I got to convince people that it's worth the money to put it onto there. But but those other elements, particularly if you walk around your home and your office and you start looking at those things, as we're getting more and more into remote working and those elements, that looking at those lights, even on the surfaces of products, and even on the front surface of your laptop, there's indicators that you could put on that location that have never been there before, to tell you different information. But moving even away from your consumer electronics into the elements around your home that currently don't have those lights, that you could indicate right on the surface of something without having into that. That's where we kind of see a lot of opportunities, because commercial lighting is a huge industry today. So, and
what I've seen in this field, first of all, there's no, like, there is the Light and Research Center. There is different schools of lighting, but there isn't like a certification called lighting engineer. That doesn't really exist. But lighting is really fundamental to science in many ways. it is some sciences, is lighting. Um, are you guys a material science company? Are you are you electrical engineers? Is it chemistry? What is the primary, uh, what's the right word? The discipline that
The
is
discipline. Yeah.
used. Yeah, which one is used primarily at Rohini?
Uh, it's honestly it's quite a few. So
Hmm.
we use a lot of electrical engineering. So the lighting is just a very large application of physics. But so probably the largest one we use is electrical.
Hmm.
So the electrical engineering, but we actually have quite a few disciplines here.
Hmm.
We do have some photonics people we work with, but then electrical engineering and software and that lately a lot of mechatronics guys we spend quite a bit of time with. So, but yeah, we we probably have almost as many disciplines as we have people at this point. So,
Yeah.
so,
So when you guys are
so.
building these products, you're building these, are they prototypes or are they sort of are you selling ideas to people? Like what you're describing kind of reminds me of that computer chip company AMD in
Mhm.
Britain that doesn't really make anything. They just sell designs or something to other chip makers that then make the products. What is your business model going to be? Is it going to be something like that where you guys are in fact just telling people how to do this? Are you going to sell them the little components? Like what's your sell sheet going to look like? Or what does it look like?
So where we're at currently, we develop the technology, and we do build a lot of prototypes, and we build a lot of uh, like smaller runs. We don't do production things, and we transfer those through our JVs to customers. And we do work with some of the end users as far as what we call engineering as a service with our end users as far as getting them up and running and stuff. As the state we're in today, we're starting to shift to some of the more direct work with them, but it's a kind of a change for us. It's more of one of those is we have a perceived need, and more people are coming to us, and we've been kind of gearing up that direction anyway. And so we're shifting to a direction where we're taking on more of those things without competing to our JVs. But where we're at today, we mostly gear. We do prototypes and engineering as a service, and then transfer those through our JVs. But the areas where we don't JVs don't have a license, then we've been pushing through those, but we're starting to take some of those into Rohini. But then we also build the technology that builds the products. So we're an interesting company because we have IP all the way through the supply chain, from the robots that build it to the end product. So it's not just any one piece. So we're all the way through. And so we also, as we develop the products, so it's not just the lights, we build the components that build it. So we actually build robots and robot components as well, and that actually put these things together. And that's probably our core piece right
Mm.
now, is building the robot. So all of the equipment, the SMT equipment that actually builds the end product, actually we've we've developed and designed and worked with our partners in order to actually build these, and we're actually constantly iterating those to be bigger, better, faster, and work with smaller components and get to the next phase of those. So it's not just building like a light strip. We're actually building the machines that go through. So we're transferring those as well to our JVs to help enable them, because we want them to be as competitive as possible.
Well, we're going to welcome back Greg Ehrich here. Hey, Greg, you made it back.
Hey.
We can't hear him, Scott. Turn on his mic. Oh man, we were lost with Greg. Okay, so but just what you were saying there, it sounds like you guys are in a position where um, you have a great product, but you don't know exactly what you're going to sell yet. Whether you're going to make machines that make these, whether you're going to sell the little pieces of paper that you were talking about, and then you started off in the automotive industry. It sounds like
Yeah.
it's like you guys are in a wild, crazy, bleeding edge phase, and you don't know if you're going to be a Qualcomm or an Apple, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, yeah. Well, our JV partners are building the products. So those guys,
Okay.
it's pretty straightforward. Those
Okay.
guys are building the products. That's what they're set up to do. But Rohini itself, which is the parent company in the middle, we have a lot of opportunities. And
Yeah.
so we're currently building the machine components and that stuff. But at the same time, there's areas where we don't have any partner that's building things, and we're starting to see a lot of traction and attention to build some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that goal of putting the light where it's never been. So we want to take advantage of that wherever we can. And so our primary focus is not the whole machine, but the components of those machines that we can keep our JV partners and our partners on the bleeding edge, because we want those guys. We want to be the fastest and the best. And then at the same time, our technology doesn't just have to place LEDs. We can place anything we want. Like, because one of the things we're doing with one of our JV partners is we're not just placing the LEDs on the surface of the board. We're actually placing the drivers for the LEDs, so that when you get that sheet of paper, it actually has the integrated driver in that as well. And so being able to do that all in one product is what we're doing with those guys, and all that runs through the same placement equipment that we developed. So, but
Okay.
Rohini itself is focused around the placement. So,
Are you guys using DC to power these LEDs directly, or is there a driver in place, or how does it work? Is there something in between the DC power and the LED?
so it depends on the application. So so some of our applications, it's just a DC drive. So if we're just trying to get a uniform, steady light out, we just use a DC drive, usually a constant current, to provide us a nice uniform light output. But other applications, like the one I was just referring to, those are individually addressed. We put an addressable driver, we distribute it on the board, and we can use a signal on there and be able to address it however we want, and be able to, we can give any kind of output that we want. And that's a micro IC that's distributed on the board, so it's pretty, whatever you want to put on it, you can put on it. So you can
I'm wondering.
make it a display.
I'm wondering when like consumer products and distributors are going to be selling this kind of thing, and where it will land first. I'm trying to think of an application, Greg. Greg, you there? Can you give us a hey?
I can, if you hear me.
Oh, he's back. He
Can you
made
hear
it
me?
back.
Okay.
Aha.
Let me jump in and full disclosure for the listeners. I missed the first 15 minutes here. So I apologize if I repeat something, but you're talking about commercialization, and it's kind of Michael's point, commercialization of mini LED. Is it going to get to that point where mini LED is going to take over? What's the other term?
So hang on.
Regular
So
LED?
you're talking about,
Yeah.
Greg. Just I'm going to fill him in here, Justin, just
Yeah.
real quick. You're talking about LEDs that are micron. So a micron is 1/1,000,000th of a millimeter. Microns across,
Okay.
super tiny. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to just me throw one at you to bring you into this conversation. What application do you think first is the most likely place to be commercialized for this? Tiny
Asking me?
LEDs. Yeah, man. I want to see what
Oh,
you
man.
got coming in hot here. Just quick.
Where could you use tiny LEDs?
Yeah, because we're going to send an invoice to Justin after. I mean, they're already pretty small, man. I mean,
well, to be fair, the ones we're using for the micro at Rohini are 30 microns, so we're not doing the one yet.
yeah,
So,
pretty tiny. That's small. 30. I mean, either way, you can't see it.
Well, I guess what are the lumens per watt out of these? That's a good question. Can 2 or 3 of these triple the light of a standard LED output?
well, so that's the interesting thing about it, is that when you get down to it, you actually can in a way, because you can be more efficient. So the underlying chip. So if you take the same size chip. So we'll talk about. I'm going to refer to chip and wafer kind of independently here. So if you take the chip, and when I'm referring to that, I'm actually referring to the die that's inside there. So the component we're putting down is actually the same one that's inside of that standard LED. So the difference is you're just eliminating all the packaging and you're putting the pads on the back. So that's the biggest difference between these LEDs and the other ones. Is on a standard LED, you have this package, and you take this same component, you put it in there, and then you wire bond the leads, and that's how you hook it up. And so a lot of times you'll have like a 50 or 100 micron chip inside that, and then you move it, or sometimes they're like a 500 micron chip, like a 0.5 millimeter chip inside that. So for the surface area, it's about the same. So now when you take it into like a mini LED or a micro LED, what you're doing is you're taking away all that packaging and you're putting it directly, so you're eliminating a lot of extra stuff. So you get a little bit more efficient on that. And the second one is now you eliminate all that, and you can put more components in the same amount of surface area. And so LEDs, when you put them down, there's that efficiency curve. And so if they stay cool, they emit more light lumens per watt, right? If they're cool. When they start heating up, and they self-heat, right? So when they start heating up, they get less efficient. And so if you turn around and you take and add 3 of them or 4 of them or 5 of them, then what happens is now you can spread that heat over a larger area and get more lumens per watt. And without all the packaging, the LED actually ends up being a little bit cheaper. So as long as you can place them right. And so you can actually spread that heat out over a larger surface area, eliminate the packaging, which is containing the heat, and you can actually get more efficient, and you can get way more power efficient, more lumens per watt for the same sort of product. So it's a really long way of saying yes, but it amounts to being the same chip, but the way that it's a yes is a little bit different. So if that makes sense. So
30
Yeah, so you
microns.
think-
30 microns is 1/100th of an inch, something like that. 0.00118. So 118th of an inch, something like that. There you go, Greg. Now you're on board.
That's small. Okay. Yeah.
I
So,
think so.
do you think a lot of manufacturers are going to go to that style of LED then in their fixtures?
yeah, so I wouldn't say 30 microns, probably not. The larger ones, like the 300 micron ones, you'll probably see that one come more. The reason is mainly because of the substrates that you put them on. So a lot of the substrates, like the FR4s and the LumaCore boards that you're putting the components on, are not incredibly accurate with today's technology. Now they're getting better. But with today's technology, they use a subtractive process, and the pad gaps are not very accurate. So they can't hold a 30 micron tolerance. We use our JV partner BOE, where we place everything on glass in that one. So glass can be very cheap, and it can transfer heat and everything else, and incredibly accurate. And so we can get away with it that way on those really super tiny components. A 300 micron component or a 500 micron component, which you can get very similar results with, you can place on an FR4 or a LumaCore board without a lot of problem. And so that's like our automotive guys. That's typically where they stick around. And some of our guys who use like FR4s and stuff, that's where they stick around. And so as those components become more commoditized, I think you'll start seeing it more in like the lighting areas. Right now, they're not as commoditized, so you get guys who are doing the backlight stuff, snapping up all of the inventory of the LEDs. So, but more and more LED vendors are coming online with their flip chip products and stuff like that. So you'll probably see it spreading out into the ecosystem more. But right now, you're seeing certain vendors who are, certain end users who are taking up a pretty significant chunk of the supply chain. So
You're familiar with Moore's law, correct?
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So I always had a feeling, starting from like maybe 2009 or something like that, the lighting industry through LED started to experience something similar to Moore's law, where the performance went up and the price went down over a significant period of time, and that seemed to be happening in LED, and then I felt like it was ending. And now you're starting everything all over again, Justin. Just when I thought, we had figured it out, it seems like there's going to be another innovation here. Is that a fair comparison to what you guys are doing, is kind of blocking onto that development of LED as a light source, and then into this, smaller and smaller sizes, and better efficiencies, and, that sort of thing? Are you guys tacking on to that kind of movement in the industry?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because it's a shift in mindset. So we're looking at a new way of doing it, kind of like when you originally went to the LED from some of those previous light sources. You hit that phase. It's a new way of looking at it that kind of reset that that clock, as you said. And that's really what it amounts to. Is now it opens up this whole world of possibilities, and it opens up
We
the
don't need
world of
any more
applications.
possibilities. We need to shut it down. It's getting too crazy enough as it is, man.
Yeah.
We need to
Light's
shut
fun.
it down.
People, yeah.
Just get a grip on lighting, not let the grip go again.
Yeah, but engineers love two things: blinky lights and buttons, right?
Sure.
So
So let me just get on you here for a second. One of the major issues that I see in LED, into this point where we are today, is the lack of replaceable components. And you talked about automotive. So in an automotive vehicle, you're not under the assumption that these lights are going to last forever. You know, warranty service call comes back. Somebody buys a 10-year warranty on the car, or 5-year, or they just want to fix that welcome lights that when they get in their car. Are these things modular and component based that they can be replaced easily, or are they manufactured specifically for each car, and that you're going to need to keep stock, or the automotive companies are going to need to keep stock on this because in 5 years, hey, what was that we made 5 years ago? I can't even remember what it is anymore. How does it work? I mean, there's a lot of that in lighting right now. You know, a fixture burns out and nobody has any clue what went wrong with it, what components it needs. Are you guys working on that at all because it's in the automotive field, or what are your plans, component and
yeah,
replacement wise?
yeah, and that's actually one of the good things about working with the automotive guys, because they think that way, and the automotive guys are actually very keen and actually just getting through some of the qualifications. And one of the things about, we've been in the JV with them for quite a while. We haven't released a product yet, and that's because of putting all that infrastructure in place for these new products. Because everything they've got, all the qualifications and all the different the approaches they've had so far have all been around packaged LEDs, and converting that to working with these type of products, has taken some time, and they won't move forward until that's all in place because it's automotive. And so that's been a really great exercise for us, and we try and put that in all of the things we do, because learning from one with the other is great. But yeah, they put that in place, and they always try and work that through, because they have to put that in with their vendors. And just working with, when they work with one of their, because they don't build, they're not the car manufacturer, they're the supplier. When they work with those different manufacturers, those manufacturers kind of demand that, because they don't, Magna's not the one that is in the headlines for not having that part. It's
Sure.
the Fords or the GMs. And so Ford's the
So
one
many people
going,
wouldn't
you have to
realize
have
that,
that.
like, Magna
Yeah.
does final assembly of vehicles. Like, so many people don't even
Oh yeah.
realize that. I think the
Yeah.
Mercedes trucks are built in South Carolina at a Magna plant. I don't know if that's exactly true, but BMW maybe, or one of these guys, they do final assembly. Magna will assemble the whole car for the manufacturer. There's not even
Yeah.
they're not even manufacturing half the time. Not half the time, but a lot
Yeah.
of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
So
sure. I don't know the exact cars, but I know there are definitely some that they do the whole thing. So yeah,
yeah.
it's funny. I didn't know that until we started working with them, and
Greg, before we
so
move on from this point, the lighting industry needs to work the way the auto industry works, like that, where the way the warranty, you could drive your whatever, your GMC Denali XLT into the dealership, something's wrong with it. The cost of that replacement gets pushed all the way back the supply chain to whoever made it, and they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
You're
Like
right.
the lighting industry could so badly use that kind of a system of accountability in the supply chain. It would be such
Well, I
a
think we
big
know.
help. Yeah.
I think we know the problem with that, though, is that most of them aren't actually manufacturing anything, sourcing it, grabbing it, slamming it together. But
Yeah.
I'm with
But
you.
yeah. So anyway, I interrupted you. Go ahead, Greg. You're back.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So you might have said this earlier. Again, I apologize. But what product have you sold the most of with the Rohini technology?
so Rohini itself, like I said, Rohini primarily builds the equipment. So we work with the equipment. So the things that are in mass production, our customers have primarily built backlighting products. So like backlighting for screens and consumer electronics. So like I had mentioned earlier, is like the HDR displays and things like that. And so our JV and BOE is building TV backlighting. So primarily right now, mostly for their Chinese markets. So they're putting together some like basically 75-inch 8K HDR televisions and that sort of thing. And then our Lumi, our other joint venture, is doing keyboard and logo backlighting. So they
Okay.
light up on your laptops, in your computers and things, the little logos on your products. So
And I did watch a video by, I think it was your CEO or someone, and they mentioned clothing. What's the most unique product you've made with it? Is clothing it?
So, yeah, clothing is one of the interesting ones. So I don't know if you saw some of the things we did. We did a light thread one that was actually pretty cool. That was actually built to just do a demo because we were trying to show how small these were, and so we made a really thin thread of light, put the LEDs end to end, and we passed it through an eye of a needle. It's a little bit bigger than it intended to be, just because our laser wouldn't cut close enough, so we had to cut it by hand with basically a microscope and a little X-Acto knife to cut the borders of the circuit, because it turns out our laser wouldn't register the fiducials well enough. But that was one of the cool ones. We put LEDs onto fabrics. That was actually it's just one of those, fun products. We didn't distribute that to anybody. It was just one of those like, hey, I wonder if we can try this, and we just messing around with it to just try different things. So a lot of things that we've done here were just one of those like, hey, I wonder if, kind of things. And then some of them we've done things for some of the movie and TV things that we love to try and talk about, but we're not allowed to. So.
Well, that's a good segue. It's up to my next question here, which is you are allowed to talk about it here on the show if you want. Nobody's listening but us.
Oh,
But
yeah,
no,
no.
yeah. But it sounds like you guys are a bunch of dorks sitting around playing with LEDs and
Pretty much.
sewing them into clothes and sticking them everywhere. All right, but patents and intellectual property. You see, there's a lot of lawsuits in the lighting business in the last couple of years. It's all over all the news all the time. It's this person suing that person suing this person bought this company for the patents. Like that's starting to happen in lighting right now. We've interviewed other people that said that they're not interested in the patent process or staying out of it because the technology is too important to even share with the patenting process, and that the patent process has not caught up with where the ingenuity and innovation have gone in the last 5 to 10 years, and that putting out patents is very risky. Where's Rohini in all this?
Yeah, so there definitely is a risk to putting out patents for certain things. So yeah, we do put out patents, and as a technology company, our intellectual property is a very key piece to what we do. So we do have a robust patent portfolio, and we do keep that up. I would say that we have a pretty significant mix of patents and kind of know-how in our kind of our what we keep as our kind of secret sauce internally. But there are things that we don't want to put into documentation, and we've made the deliberate choice not to patent because we don't want to put that out there and publish it, because it makes it too easy for someone to duplicate it. Because even the stuff we've patented, we monitor that, and particularly some of the overseas stuff, you'll turn around and you patent it, and then about 6 months later you see a knockoff in there. And so we try and patent the things that are easily protectable, and then leave out things that make it harder to use. So so that when they go and try and do it, it's like, all right, great, you got the machine or you got this, but now you can't really duplicate it. But yeah, it certainly is a difficult landscape. It's one of those things that a patent's only as good as your ability to protect it. So
Yeah, I'm wondering when to myself, like whether this is going to be when I say I think you say niche. when I say niche
Hmm.
in Canada. I'm wondering, like niches can be very big and profitable. I'm not saying that like the lighting industry is enormous. There's all manner of different angles for the lighting industry. I'm wondering whether, what the gateway into general lighting is with this technology. Is it smaller fixtures? Because the fixtures are already pretty small. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much smaller they could get, or in terms of general, I can see it in automotive and machines and all these different areas. I'm wondering where that gateway will be, Greg. If there's a path for Rohini and their joint ventures to find their way into an Acuity product or Lithonia or Rab Lighting or something like this, and it's like, whoa. The one thing it reminds me of, you remember that light emitting plasma? Remember that, Greg? That little
Yeah,
that
yeah.
came out like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and it was this little
Mhm.
tiny chip like this, Justin, and it went, and you could put it in a fixture, and it was very bright, but it never took off for whatever reason. Who knows what the reason was, but it never took off. And so you could have, extremely small light fixtures, but there's no legs to it. I'm wondering if there's a gateway for you guys, and if you guys have thought about that. I know we covered it a little bit, but have you targeted anything yet at Rohini of where it could enter?
Yeah, we've had quite a few conversations about it because, and we've had a few of the guys in because what we found was our area, at least that we see, is not in trying to fit where people already are.
Mm.
Because when we turn around and we look at the fixtures that are out there today, there's, if you look at like a lot of the commercial lighting, there's not a whole lot of advantage to using ours. Yeah, we can do some of the animated things and like the welcome and tuning that you're referring to that are really great, and we can do that sort of thing, and that's good. But what we need to do is differentiate ourselves, and the tuning and rolling across that is great. But when you have all the space in the world, being super thin and super lightweight is not a huge advantage, right? If I've got all the space above the diffuser and all that stuff, and you're like, all right, well, cool, it's thinner, but no one can tell. And so, but like ours, like being able to embed it within a piece of glass and be able to see right through it. Now that's something we can do. Being able to put it onto a surface where otherwise you couldn't. That's something we can do, and that's kind of where we started looking at it, is like, how can we do something where it's either architectural or where you can't put an existing luminaire or something that no one else can do currently, because that's kind of where we started kind of looking at things in a way that it's like, if there's all this space, I'm not going to win.
I'll tell you,
It's
I'll
like,
tell you, my gut tells me that it's in the human-centric lighting play. Greg was talking about 87% of the time indoors in the introduction. See, one of the problems with human-centric lighting is nailing the spectrums that are correct,
mhm.
and they're very specific, right? So there's certain manner types of light that are preferred at various times in someone's day, depending on what their sleep cycle is and this kind of thing. And having the ability to pack a fixture with multiple types of LEDs that can mimic those different exact frequencies and spectrums, I think is where you would see it, in the human-centric lighting section. So where you can get exactly the light output that you want per a certain latitude and longitude and color and spectrum. And what are the other lighting codes, Greg, for that area?
Yeah,
The other.
what I know what you mean, and what I'm thinking about as you're saying that is that, yeah, like you have what, 4 or 5 different Kelvin temperatures or however many you want, but each one of those could be a chip. I know people kind of combine them right now, but the fact that yours are smaller, now you can get 3 of these, 4 of these chips to one of those. But yeah, you're exactly right, Mike. I think that's somewhere where that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like for me, if I was looking at this technology, I'd be like, well, never mind, because what you'll see is, if you see like a tunable light fixture, you'll see multiple strips of LEDs in it that are kind of
Mhm.
mixing together, and sometimes it's merely this one's dimmer and this one's less dim, and that's how they're making that dim to warm. I think with those really smaller, and you can actually, if you look up at the light fixture, you can see it. But I think if you could actually create and mimic those spectrums exactly, 30 microns is nothing. I mean, you couldn't even see it on the table here. So I mean, that would be for me the place where I would run this through, Justin. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something to look at. Because yeah, even the largest ones, the 300 microns, if you have one on your face, you're like going, "Is that a piece of
yeah,
glitter?" Or
yeah, for
so
sure.
they're epically small. So yeah, it's like it's like a grain of sand. So it's, and like I said, that's the largest ones we place. So so yeah, those are they're very, very small LEDs. So yeah, and that's very easy for us to do. So yeah, that's certainly something, and that would be an area that we could definitely add some innovation. That's something interesting to look at. So
Yeah, I'd go after that circadian play. Those skylights, that 2x4 troffers that look like skylights they have. You could probably rock that world big time with this technology. But folks, Justin, any final thoughts for the listeners? You only had half of Greg, so you may want to get him now because he's super hot these days. Hard to pin down.
yeah, apparently he's like, yeah, I didn't need to be here. You got this.
Not quite.
So,
Technical difficulties.
all right. So that's it, folks. Justin, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. But before you guys go, we got to go back to the original, Greg. The original, energyfocus.com. That's ENERGYFOCUS.com. And focus.
And we talked about here at the end of the podcast, but the ability to be able to change colors within a tube, that's what N-Focus is. It's an LED tube that you can actually put in your existing fluorescent fixture, change the color, and change the output, if you choose that option. 87% of the time indoors, might as well make it enjoyable. Pick the color you want.
And tuning, folks, is just like dimming. That's right. Tune your lights. Sell your customers some N-Focus with the wall switches, just like I have here at Get a Grip Studios. Come on, sucker. Go to energyfocus.com. That's ENERGYFOCUS.com. Check out their experts on LS Evolve. If you're a Nailed member, that's free to you. You can learn all the stuff about Flicker from John Davenport. And I'm trying to remember his name. Chris Johnston. That's right, Chris Johnston. He's in there too, doing it up for LS Evolve, which is created and made for the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org, the patron of this podcast. Check us out. Join us. And folks, that's it for now. And I know I speak from my heart when I say goodbye to you from Greg Ehrich, Michael Colligan, and Justin Wendt of Rohini. Bye for now.